Thanks for tuning in again to Millennial Diligence. I brought up the other day on my previous video about the idea of an emergency fund. We all know what an emergency fund is. I wanted to expand on that idea a little bit. Having 3 to 6 months in case, shit hits the fan, very important. What I want to express today is the fact that you don't want to have that fund to be too large because it becomes subject to inflation, if that makes sense. So inflation in a healthy American economy, you can ask an economist this, is around 2%. If things are going smoothly, your dollars are only worth 2% less each year as time passes. Now, when you have an emergency fund, ideally you want to have that in a high yield savings account that could possibly outpace inflation. That's kind of what we're going for here. But you don't want to have so much in there that you're missing out on potential gains by investing that money. Okay? So that's kind of the idea behind speculative investments, index funds, that kind of thing. When you're going into something where you're going to invest, you're going to take on more risk. That's inherent in any investment, in most investments. But you're also going to not only match inflation, you're going to beat inflation, and ideally, you're going to beat it significantly. You're going to beat that 2% margin, because that's the thing. If you don't have it in at least a high yield savings account, we're talking about your emergency fund here, you are going to be subject to losing at least, come on, they cook the books, we all know this, to show that CPI and these inflation numbers aren't as bad as they are. But you buy gas, you buy groceries, you buy these things, you notice the uptick in the price of everything. That is the inflation coming for your buying power. Now, what we're seeing these days is a lot of volatility, and ideally you would see people run to the bond market to kind of get away from that volatility. Bonds, you buy bonds, and basically it's a guarantee for the government to say, okay, we'll give you this much money, we'll give you a decent return that should outpace inflation. You just keep the money in there, that kind of thing. CDs is another good one where it's like it gives you a guaranteed return. Bonds aren't necessary. They're pretty ironclad, but they're not necessarily guaranteed. There's a tiny bit of risk. There's a little bit of risk. With CDs, that's ironclad, but you're not going to get as good of a return on a CD. Typically, depending on the length of the term. 1 year, I think they do 5 years and 10 years. I don't know if they do a 20 or a 30-year CD. I highly doubt that. But what I wanted to say is this. Now that bond yields are going up and interest rates are going up, it's good. I think it would be wise, honestly, to look into the bonds or look into a high yield savings account for your emergency fund. So short term. And I would probably just do high yield, because bonds, you're going to get into capital gains and all that. Whereas a high yield, you are not going to be a high yield savings account, you will not be subject to capital gains tax. As far as I know, double check me on that, but as far as I know, if you put your money in a high yield savings account, you're not going to be subject to those gains you make on that interest. Now, heading into the tumultuous and kind of up and down nature of the market, it's looking much in the higher interest rates. That is looking much and much better to me to put your money in for your emergency fund. High yield savings. Do not keep it in checking. You're going to get nothing. In a typical savings account, yeah, you're going to have that accessibility, but you're not going to get your money is still going to be eroded by inflation, by whatever it's at. It's a little over 2% now. Up around COVID, it was like, inflation really was eroding things, and Biden, God bless him, finally got inflation under control after the money printing that COVID represented. So that's what I would definitely recommend right now, is a high yield savings account while the interest rates are still pretty high. It's not historically high, but high enough that you're going to outpace inflation with it. And by doing that, your money also remains accessible. So in case shit does happen, you lose your job, your car's totaled, you need an emergency, or you need a surgery or something like that. You have the money available, but it's not being eroded by that 2 to 3% inflation that we're talking about, which doesn't sound like much. Like, 2% a year. Yeah, that's in a healthy American economy. That's when it's healthy. Past few years, depending on, what you're talking about, inflation rates they've bounced all over the place. They don't want people to freak out and start, putting money underneath their mattress. But you go to the store, you see that you're paying more for things. It's apparent. We're paying way more for so many things now than we were just a few years ago. And the tariffs they're just going to pour, hot grease all over that existing grease fire. So, yeah, I still think it's a very solid idea to have 3 to 6 months. Say you get laid off. Say something happens. Have that accessible, but do not leave that in a traditional savings account. I wouldn't do and I fell victim to this too. I wouldn't do a 401k loan or disbursement. Don't do that, because you're going to lose money off the top. You're going to pay tax and penalties. I think if you go to a credit union right now, for example, I live in Oregon. A credit union that I go to, Oregon State Credit Union, they'll offer you 5% for a high yield savings account, and that will easily at least maintain the value of the dollars you put into it. So I think that'd be a great thing. Do not go to one of these big box banks. Do not go to US Bank. Do not go to Chase. They have the appearance of legitimacy, and they have the appearance of, oh, don't worry, you're going to be safe no matter what. A credit union is going to be your best bet. 99 times out of 100, that credit union is going to be safer, and they're going to offer you better, more reasonable terms. And if you get a good relationship with that credit union, they will be more likely to loan you money for a small business loan or a home loan, something like that. So yeah, emergency fund. I would highly advise against putting it into any kind of speculative investment. Just keep it in a high yield savings account, ideally it goes both ways. So if you don't go to a big box bank, like Ally doesn't have any, they don't have any brick and mortar stores. So that's how they give you a better terms and better rates. So I'd go to that, or honestly, a local credit union. Just learn someone's name there, sit down with the manager, tell them what you want to do, and they will get you lined out. Right now, like I said, we're heading into a period of instability, so these high yield savings accounts are going to look better and better, because it's a semi-guaranteed return, and your money will be safe, and it will remain accessible. So I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Where are you keeping your emergency fund? How do you maintain the availability while also not missing out on potential gains, or at least maintaining its value, at least maintaining the money that you put in, its value, basically. So, lovely weather down here in Southern California. Just got back from going fishing. So, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Thanks so much, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks for tuning in.